Thanks very much, Will. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. I just wanted to provide a quick update and then happy to take questions. As always, a short while ago, I released a statement talking about how, as I have been saying for days, but in particular, given what we saw take place earlier today in the legislature, what we've heard from other members of the science table who have made it crystal clear in various media reports that despite their best advice that they have consistently provided to Doug Ford, that he has continued to recklessly make decisions that have no basis in science, have no basis in healthcare, have completely alienated large chunks of the province of Ontario. And I'm talking specifically about the increased police powers, the carding, the playground closures, and so much more. When the numbers are going in the wrong direction and our healthcare system continues to be overwhelmed, and life and death decisions that are being made by this premier and by this government are not following the science, and the Conservative government led by Doug Ford consistently voted down opposition motions, both ours and those of the NDP today, to provide the kind of science-based supports that will help the people of this province get through this third wave. When we find ourselves in this set of circumstances, it is abundantly clear that Doug Ford has lost the trust of the people of Ontario. He does not have the skill set, the capacity, or the interest, frankly, to get Ontario through this COVID-19 pandemic, get us through to the other side. And so therefore, I am calling on Doug Ford to do the honorable and right thing, to recognize his own limitations and to resign. We need a COVID czar. We need someone with unimpeachable scientific integrity to give us the kind of leadership that is so lacking right now in this province. While people are in those ICUs, while doctors are on the verge of having to make heartbreakingly difficult decisions about who might be able to live or die, this is not the kind of Ontario that we should have, notwithstanding the crisis that we're in. Doug Ford is unfit to govern this province. He needs to go. He needs to get out of the way. We need a COVID czar. We need science-backed decisions. And if we do that, I suspect, I believe, I am confident Ontario will be able to get through this third wave and get back to the kind of life and the kind of province that we all want. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Okay, your first question is from Colin DeMello from CTV Toronto.
Hi, good afternoon, Stephen. The people of Ontario are probably looking at this and going, really? I mean, calling for a resignation at this point. This seems like, you know, it seems like a hammer tool to kind of kill a fly, right? I mean, is this really the right approach we want to be taking here to, you know, have the premier leave and who really takes his place in your mind?
Well, listen, Colin, let's be really clear about this. Nobody in Ontario wants to be in this position right now. Nobody. Not a single person of the 15 million people who live in this province, after all of the suffering and the sacrificing that we've all had to go through for more than a year, wants to be in a spot where, thanks to Doug Ford's inability to lead us through this properly, we find ourselves in the worst spot, worse shape right now than at any point in this pandemic. Decisions that are getting made recklessly with no basis in science. In this, I keep saying this, and these black hole cabinet meetings that allegedly take days and last hours, none of us knows who's whispering in his ear, who's lobbying cabinet, who's advocate. What we do know is that Doug Ford consistently ignores the science. And then to hear again in media reports this morning that key senior members of the science table have made it crystal clear that what Doug Ford decided to do and what he announced last Friday was virtually in complete contravention or completely ignoring of the advice the science table was giving. And then to see the spectacle in the legislature, despite what the science table said, despite what doctors everywhere are calling for, despite what mayors are calling for, what every opposition party is calling for Doug Ford's caucus to stand up repeatedly today to block the kind of progress that we need, that we are calling for, has just now taken this to the point of no return. Doug Ford is unfit to govern this province and to lead us through this pandemic. It's not where I wanted us to be. It's not where you wanted us to be. It's where Doug Ford has led us to, and that's why I believe he's got to go.
Follow up.
I'm wondering what you made of the comments from Health Minister Christine Elliott today. She had said that the chief medical officer of health did not provide the recommendation to close playgrounds. It's safe to assume that the chief medical officer of health also did not provide the recommendation to card people across the province. So this was a cabinet-based decision. What do you make of that? I mean, did they take bad advice from internal within cabinet, or have they just completely lost the plot?
I think they've completely lost it altogether. I think it was a reprehensible thing to do. I don't know how any one of them can look at themselves in the mirror. I am really nervous. I'm really scared, in fact, that what was motivating the decision around police in particular was politics, for some strange reason, I guess, rather than, it certainly wasn't science. We know it wasn't science. We know it wasn't medical or healthcare related. We don't know. I've been saying that since last Thursday, before the announcement was made, but it's only become even more abundantly clear about Doug Ford's unfitness to govern Ontario and to get us through this. This is why he can no longer be in charge. Certainly can't be in charge of the COVID response, but I don't think he's got what it takes to lead Ontario, period, full stop. Regardless, in this moment of crisis, when we need someone with, I keep saying, unimpeachable scientific integrity and credentials, who doesn't care about the politics and doesn't care about the limelight and certainly doesn't care about getting reelected, deciding we need paid sick leave. We need to close down everything that's truly not essential. We need our schools and our daycares to be safe and healthy so our kids can go back or remain in the case of daycares, because we need that to be functioning properly. And I'm just giving some examples of what I believe needs to be done, but it's clearly not going to happen, because if it was going to happen under Doug Ford, I suspect it would have happened up until now. But there was something really reprehensible and despicable when they can confirm that it wasn't science, it wasn't the advice, and no one has a clue exactly where this advice came from. And yet there Doug Ford was on Friday telling us it's where we had to go to solve this crisis, when everybody knew it wasn't science backed. I have never, in all my years around politics and as a student of political history, I have never seen such a clear-cut example of a fundamental abdication of leadership than what I saw on Friday from Doug Ford. And there's just absolutely no way he can remain in place.
Next question is Steve Paikin from TVO.
Thanks very much, Will. Hi again, Stephen.
Hey, Steve.
My question is, it is impossible for me to believe that the Premier of Ontario is going to take advice on whether to stay in office or resign from the leader of a party that is not officially constituted and the leader doesn't have a seat. So what is the value in making the announcement that you just did?
Because leaders have to lead, Steve, and Doug's not doing it. Doug's not a leader, and we're all suffering as a result of it. Every single person in this province is. And this is a life and death circumstances. This is not the same as any other political decision or political issue that might come up. This is life and death in this province right now. And there are examples in Western democracies of leaders in life and death situations who've recognized they don't have what it takes to get the job done. Last week, when I called for a COVID czar, I talked about how Doug Ford, in his effort to appease God knows whoever's lobbying him, in his effort to appease, he's effectively become a COVID Neville Chamberlain. But look at the example of Neville Chamberlain. He resigned when he realized that he wasn't the right person to lead, lead in that case, Great Britain through what needed to be done. He stepped out of the way. So this has happened before when people recognize their limitations. And if we suspected that Doug had limitations before, which I suspect many Ontarians did, Friday was the moment, that crystallizing moment, when it became so clear that his value set is wrong, that his credentials and capacity are off the mark, and that he needs to go. Will he do it? Look, I suspect he won't do it, but that doesn't stop me as someone who wants to lead this province from calling for the right thing to be done. And the right thing in this moment is for Doug Ford to go and for him to realize it, or for his caucus to tell him it's time.
Okay, follow-up question here. Winston Churchill was waiting in the wings to take over. Do you see Winston Churchill on the opposite side of the House?
Well, I think I don't see a Winston Churchill on the other side of the House. But like I said last Thursday, what we need in this moment is not another politician to take over. What we need to get us through this specific healthcare crisis is a COVID czar there are a whole series of individuals I've mentioned previously, Dr. Stanley Brown, Dr. David Naylor. There are others. I just use those two as examples who have that scientific background, who have that integrity, who have the right character and the right temperament to make the decisions that are required in order to be successful. So to follow on with the example I used a few minutes ago, what we need is our own version of Eisenhower at this point in time to help liberate Europe, and in this case, to help liberate Ontario from COVID-19. And that's not going to come from a politician. That's certainly not going to come from Doug Ford.
Okay, a reminder to please raise your hand or write to the chat if you have any further questions. Okay, there are no other questions on the line. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.